So the idea of today was that we would talk about both what the church has been doing in lockdown in relation to ministry with children, youth and families, and also, given that things are changing now, what's going to happen in the future. And I'm aware from talking to people that people have been trying, so some people have shut everything down in fact, everyone's shut everything down, we know that. Face-to-face stuff, but in one sense, a whole lot of activity ceased. And at the same time, some churches have started experimenting with how do you do ministry mission when you're not face-to-face. And I know from talking to people that some of that stuff's gone well and some of it hasn't gone well at all. So it's been trial and error and learning on the go, and some of it's been deflating and frustrating, and some of it's been, that kind of worked. So this isn't simply sharing success stories. It's sharing learnings and struggles and challenges and experiments, and also a chance to ask questions, bounce around ideas, and I guess think about let's just go back to normal, but what can we learn from this about being church differently in the future as well? So yes, there might be a point where everything that we've done before opens up and continues, and that's fine. But at the same time, we might learn some things now that actually take us into some new ministry and mission spaces. So I think if we have the time in this hour, it's a time to do a bit of wondering and asking questions too about that kind of stuff as well. So that's what we're on about. And my rough plan is that we might ask some of the folk here who I've kind of teed up to share a bit of what they've been trying and learning, and what hasn't worked for them. And then after each person's shared, we might just pause for a moment and then have a chance to ask questions and make comments. I'm really conscious that for people who are experimenting and things haven't gone well, you're kind of putting it out there. So, for me, this is an appreciative listening opportunity. We're not here to critique other people, and I'm sure we wouldn't think we are, but it's a chance to learn from others and hopefully encourage them too. So if you hear a story that encourages you, it would be great to tell people that. Okay? So none of these people I've asked know who I'm going to ask first, which makes it exciting, doesn't it? So Joe Crisp, would you be willing to tell us a bit about both? So Joe works in two places, half-time each, the Avenue Blackburn, which is just over the border in Yarra Yarra, and also in Pakenham. And Joe, I wonder if you'd be willing to share a bit about what life's been like in those two places for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Why not kick it off? So one of the biggest learnings I've actually had is that just because you work across two congregations, not necessarily both the same thing's going to work across both. And that's probably been my biggest learning actually in this whole thing. I have tried the same things at both, and one has taken off and one hasn't, and vice versa. So I guess I would say that first of all, that every context is different. So that's probably quite important. The biggest one that has actually taken off, which I'm actually really excited about, is at the Avenue. Well, there's two things. One at Pakenham is that we're recording kids' time, and that has worked really well. The biggest thing at the Avenue that we've done is we've started taking church outside, doing butterflies at Easter time, putting them all over the walls, getting the whole congregation to decorate them, and then the families popping them up over on Easter Sunday. We've taken that on board for Pentecost because the whole community started getting involved in that, and we had resources for the community, which they took, and then we had responses from the community because we're in a really good spot and we had lots of people walking. So we've actually taken that on board, and we're actually doing paper dolls which will be connected with each other, and they're starting to go up at Pentecost, and we've written a whole liturgy around it, abundance and life. And so for it's a 4 to 5 week project where it will change from week to week for the 4 weeks after Pentecost.
There you go. I've had that on my computer.
Oh, fantastic. So that's our butterflies. So they were all decorated by different people in the congregation. So this has become a real intergen exercise, and the paper dolls, you should see some of them that are coming in from the whole congregation. So we have little kids doing it right up to 90-year-olds getting involved, and it's become just an awesome project that everyone is getting really excited about.
I really like the use of the building as a, it's just there. People walk past it. It's kind of, you don't have to create the sign. The building's the thing. Yeah. Sorry,
I don't know if you can see on the tree there. There's butterflies all over the trees, and we've written "Christ is risen" on our windows. So we'll have messages like that at Pentecost as well. We'll be writing on the footpaths in chalk. We've used the hymn "Brother, Sister, Let Me Serve You," the servant song, as our theme. So there's a whole liturgy around it, and we're hoping to really connect with the community through this next project. I don't know, is there anything else, Craig, you want me to say?
Yeah, so I'm just working out whether to let people ask questions on the way through, or why don't you keep talking about the two churches, and then we'll pause at the end and let people ask questions.
Sure. So just to give you a bit of stuff about what's going on at Pakenham. So Cranbourne, Pakenham and Endeavour Hills decided during COVID that they would actually record their services, and they have a team that are recording all their services every week, and that's done at Cranbourne. So I felt like children and families weren't being represented in that space at that time. It was literally just a service. So I said I would really like to be part of that team, and rather than doing a kids' time on my own, which I didn't know how engaging that would be all the time, I actually asked the supply, Tony Duncan, who was at supply at Pakenham at the time, I asked if he would mind if we did it together. So we have now started doing the kids' time together each week. It usually goes for about between 7 to 10 minutes, and it's separate to the service, so that the kids don't have to sit through the whole service to actually get the kids' time. They can watch that as a separate thing. On top of that, there's been little things, stories that we've put as a separate item, so that kids don't have to sift through. They can just watch what they want to watch. So that's actually been really great, and has started building a whole lot of momentum. To start with, Tony and I were pretty over the top, and it felt very unnatural. Since we've started it, and as the weeks have gone on, we've actually kind of there's a chemistry we now have on screen together, and we've been receiving lots of feedback on just how it's kind of started to evolve, and that we bounce off each other, and it's actually become a really fun experience, and something that I would actually kind of like to keep going, to be honest. It's a lot of work, and I know Ray puts a lot of work into editing it every single week. So that is something that I don't have to do, which is lovely. So I just go record, and then it comes up on the weekend, which is awesome.
And so, Joe, if people wanted to see that, they could go to the Cranbourne, links on the Cranbourne website, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And if you can't find that, go to the Presbytery website, and we've got a list of all the church online stuff around the Presbytery. So
yeah.
Or Endeavour Hills website.
Oh, yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Yep, there's links. There's links from each of the not sure about Pakenham actually, but yeah.
I hope so.
Well, yeah, I better check. Joe, you were trialling some take-home stuff too, weren't you?
Yes, it kind of didn't really take off. It was something that I tried before Easter, and it was a lot of work, and it didn't seem to bring a whole lot of response. So I know other people have done it and had great response, but yeah, it was just something that I tried, and it didn't kind of take off, and there was other things taking off. So I made a decision and with Church Council that we would kind of move forward from that.
Now, my other question before I throw it open is that you said the other day that you were busier than you had been when people were meeting face to face. Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like I'm on Zoom all the time and different times. So there's one particular family that has obviously homeschooling and things like that. So they don't really want to meet during the day. So we actually meet on a Friday night for drinks. I feel like I'm constantly on, to be honest. And I had to actually make a really strong decision about my boundaries, and because we've got WhatsApp groups going on. There's lots of things that I haven't even mentioned that we're doing. We have plenty of WhatsApp groups that the whole congregations are getting involved in.
Can you say in 2 sentences what a WhatsApp group is for those who don't know?
Yeah, sure. It's an app on your phone that you can actually message, and you can have groups that you can message each other, and you can actually video as well, a little bit like Zoom. So it's just a different style of app that you can use to, like texting, really. And you can send videos and memes and all that kind of stuff through it. So you could be on all the time if. And so I had to make a conscious decision to actually turn off, and my turn off time was different to normal. So my turn off time is I try to actually take Saturday and most of Sunday off. Mondays become a heavy day, which is actually unusual.
Okay, great. I'm going to keep us moving. Who'd like to ask Joe a question? If you do, wave your hand and okay, Chris, and then unmute yourself. And if you
sounds fantastic in a lot of ways, Joe. Every time I hear it, my question is around the decision to do the kids stuff outside of worship. Like, I think that's great, but the real question is why not still have it in worship as well?
At Cranbourne, when we're recording it, I guess that was a team decision. It just wasn't my decision. And I actually really like the decision, to be honest. The decision was made due to the kids not having, if they wanted to watch the service, they could. And there's been different things happening in the worship that, we've had Stations of the Cross and things that are different. But the decision was made that it was kind of better to have an intergen time separate, so that the kids didn't have to sit through, or even if it was an adult, if they didn't want to watch the whole service, they could watch a kind of condensed form of it, maybe. Yeah, that was the thinking around it anyway. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I don't know. I see the positives in it.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take another question.
Just on that, I've watched, because I'm from Endeavour Hills, I watched the service, but I'm also involved in children's ministry. I've been able to watch them both separately, and that suits as well, Joe, because of times and family things, husbands. It just, I like to watch them separately at the moment, so I think that works as well.
Awesome. It'd be great to have a chat with you later, Cheryl, about your thoughts and if you've got any ideas.
Thank you. But yeah, I think it's good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe. Look, that's a great start and really good to hear. And I don't know about others, but I love the butterfly idea of kind of taking it outside the building, and it kind of says we're here when we're not here. And in a way that's not just a sign, we've left the building or we're meeting somewhere else. That's actually enlivening and colourful and fabulous. I'm going to ask, so we're going to go from going to go to Berwick. So our man in Berwick is Matt Pendle. And Matt has playgroup and messy church and other stuff. So Matt, tell us how that's been going.
Yeah, well, a lot different than what it has been, obviously, with COVID. We decided with Church Council to postpone all our face-to-face activities and services as everyone has. And I've moved playgroup to be more of a catch-up relationship kind of interactive session on Zoom, which has been well received. There has been a couple of weeks where people haven't joined just because they have grandparents around who take their kids around the block for a walk, and that happens to be the time that the session's on, but they don't want to change the time. So it's good just to be there and have that opportunity if they like to, just to pop on and see some other faces, but also acknowledging that the kids are probably spending a lot of time on screen as well. So just being sensitive to that. Messy Church, I've had 2 Messy Churches online. Last on Sunday just now, gone. Had one family kind of pop onto Zoom, which is really good because they're really organised and they had all the activities that I sent out ready to go for the kids. But I'm thinking that it definitely needs to be rethought, because if I keep with the face-to-face template, I think it's just going to, not connect well during this time, because obviously at home there's lots of distractions and there's things that kids will go, oh, I want to do this instead. And yeah, I think the resources that Chris has sent out will play really well and make it even more regular. So I'd like to knock that out a bit more.
A couple of quick questions there. So you've sent activity material to the homes, and then
yes,
then you did the thing saying you've got this, we're going to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. So I set it up a bit differently. So I had the celebration time, which is like a message first up, and then prior to that, the session, the event, I sent out all the activities that I would have set up. So if they would like to do it with me on that day, they can. Otherwise, they can just do it during the week if they have something they would like to do. Yeah, so that's different. I also had like yeah.
So my second question was, sorry, I'm cutting in because do you find you're talking about when the family's at home, the kids, there's other things they can do, so they might get, are you finding through that your engagement is more with the parents, or still both?
Bit more with the parents, actually. Yeah. Which is different. Yeah, right. That's good.
Okay. All right. So sorry to interrupt. You keep going.
No, that's right. Other things. So still involved with worship. We're doing 2 services online, streaming live. One, a worship at 9, which is a bit more contemporary, which is done at 9 o'clock on Zoom, and then our traditional service at 10:30 is done on Facebook Live. So that's still happening. Still very involved with that. Probably more switched to technical side. So kind of researching and implementing platform designs and hardware and software and all that kind of stuff, which has been a big learning curve. I guess like the stereotype of being one of the younger people in church, like you kind of get thrust upon the technological side because you think, I must have a knack for this, which is pretty funny. And on Tuesday nights, we've also opened up just like a half an hour, 7:30 till 8, bring a tea, coffee, beverage and dessert and just catch up, which has been well received by the wider side of St. Andrews. And then, that's that's the main things that have been happening. So, but it's been good to take this time and to explore different ways of church, and I think it's a good opportunity for investment in the future as a legitimate platform to reach the fringes of the church who connect well this way.
Great. And again, are you finding you're working less or more than you were before?
A bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that because of the kind of the video stuff? Is it, or like what's caused that?
I think more so the meeting side.
Okay.
Kind of the same as Joe. Like it kind of bleeds into days that you weren't necessarily doing things, just because you need to keep in contact with people and to maintain relationships. Otherwise, in times of isolation, people feel even more distant if they don't have that opportunity. So,
Great, thank you. Anyone got a question for Matt? Okay, well, if you do later, just wave and stuff. So I should have said earlier, what I'm going to do in this first half is focus more on children and family. In the second half, some of the youth workers out there, youth and young adult people, tell us how that's going. That's okay. I wonder if, Joe Austin, are you willing to give it a go? Tell us how it's going at Hampton Park after you unmute yourself.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, so straight away I started with running playgroup on Zoom, and also we normally have fortnightly family gathering, which used to be Messy Church, but now it's just it's not Messy Church, but is intergenerational really, and it's just a small group of families, about 5 families. So instead of doing it fortnightly, I upped it to, we just do it every Sunday afternoon. So that group, that's continued and done fairly well. So we just have the 40 minutes for Zoom, but it's probably different. I haven't done any sort of sent out anything beforehand or anything. I might say bring along something that we're going to use during the gathering, and so it might be some way that they participate in the sharing of the Bible scripture, or in the prayer, and so I try to make it interactive in some way, or there might be some activity. Maybe I will just show them as an illustration, and then they can do it later on. So it's basically kind of the celebration time that we do. So we have sharing the Bible, we have prayer together, we have a blessing. So we use the blessing that we usually do at the end, that's been changed to fit with COVID times, and occasionally there's just been one family that's come, but that has meant we've sort of had longer together and just time to catch up a bit more without distractions that are usually there. With the play group, initially that there was a bit of a good response, but it's really just kind of dropped off to one person turning up or nobody turning up. And like Matt, sometimes I've just made it a catch up, but otherwise we've just done some songs and a story, and just use things around the house to have the children participate. So I'm just sort of rethinking, what to do there with that. And yesterday I was talking to one of the playgroup mums, and she was you could just hear the kind of the being at home and the isolation. She was just kind of like, oh, I just don't have the routine, and I just don't have the motivation, and so she appreciated connecting, but just it's just kind of not something that's going to happen for them. They're just, as I said, like the motivation, everything, she's feeling tired, and so that's possibly for other families as well, I think. So just thinking through what to do next for that. As far as our Sunday congregation, we're just having a Zoom catch up, and the minister's doing a reflection and prayer. There's not really a children's section, although there was one Sunday where we did have a family that just off their own back contributed something with the kids. So really at this moment I'm kind of rethinking how to do things.
Okay, so it sounds like go on.
I was just going to say, and also at the beginning I wasn't keen about sending out any packages or anything that I might handle, because I just didn't want to be passing on the germs or anything, but at this stage I'm feeling like that's probably okay. So that's one of the things that I'll be doing.
It sounds to me there's a similar theme running through these, that the online engagements kind of hit and miss. I guess it's really up to them. It's not up to you in one sense. Okay.
I'm going to interrupt again to just follow up Joe's one. I saw that before I actually started anything with Endeavour Hills, and from what I understand, Joe had the Zoom meeting with Playgroup, and then she repeated it on YouTube. I don't know how you do that. But then she just did again what she'd done with the children, and there seemed to be quite a few views that people had looked to that later, and I looked at that later rather than being part of the Zoom, that strangers could, people outside the playgroup could look at it, and that was good, Joe, but I only saw one. But
so I'll just respond to that. So actually that's not what I usually do. I did it the once just so that people could see what we were doing in case they wanted to come on board. But I did discover after I did that you're actually not supposed to read books on Facebook. So I took that down, and I haven't done that again. But yes, there was definitely a big response to that. Yeah.
So, and that's a really helpful thing that some people, it's live is good, and people choosing their own time is good as well, but it has to be stuff that you can legally put out there. Chris?
Just on that, reading books, I know the Salvos have actually gone through and got permission from particular authors about which books they can have read on Playgroup in that kind of way. So if you like, I can try and track that down and find out whether it's, which authors are open to having their books read in that kind of way, if that's helpful.
Yeah. So at the moment, thanks, Chris. At the moment, educational institutions have got particular permission from the some publishing association, but that I know this because my wife works in the kindergarten, but that wouldn't work for churches necessarily. So you'd need particular permission. One of the things we've got on the Presbytery website is I've set up some pages on one of my blogs, and one of them is about children's storybooks that are read online. And there's a page that's got world famous actors reading children's storybooks, and it's all legal and above board. And if you wanted to show one of those videos as a storytelling time, you could do that too. So if you go to the Presbytery website, that stuff's on the bottom of the worship preparation page, if memory serves me well. Thanks, Joe. Like it's a learning thing, and it's not easy. And hearing that from we can't just get on TV and broadcast. We thought we could, but it's families have got their own rhythm, and that's a good learning that we're going to have to keep wrestling with. I'd like to. Is Zak still here? We lost him. Do you want to tell us about how Murrumbeena's going from your point of view?
Sure. For those who don't know, hello, I'm Zak. I started in the role on the 1st of March, just in time before the world changed. And thankfully, just in time to register. Doing at Murrumbeena is live streaming the services on Sunday through a platform called Church Online and Facebook Live. And then afterwards, we put them up on YouTube. So I've been involved with that in terms of the kids space, and we've been trying to make church feel as normal as possible for those who aren't able to worship with us. So I do about a 10-minute segment each week that fits with the narrative lectionary that we're going through. And then like everyone else, I hopped on board with the, getting online and running ministries through that, but then quickly realized that we had to be thinking of something more than just online, and like everyone else, feeling very over-screened and over-zoomed. So a few weeks back, I started getting on a bike and going and visiting the families in the local area. So far I've done, I got to slow down. So far I've done 9 visits to different families, and that's been going really well. And I'm visiting 3 more this weekend. And it's just been a combination of playing sports in the park with the families from a distance, or just chatting with them in their front yard and getting to know them, because half of them I hadn't even met before the lockdown began. So it's been going on at Murrumbeena. Happy to take questions.
I just thought you weren't allowed to throw, play in the park with balls. Balls. It's all very confusing.
Jay, I'm going to handball to you because you said it was okay. Yeah. So I'm going to throw it under the bus.
Yeah.
Sure. I think, I'm trusting you, Zak.
I can actually help if that's helpful. Sorry, let's just get the whole Murrumbeena team here.
So that's right.
Because it's actually not down at the park. This is actually an individual family. So, it is at the park with one family, so it's not like a group of people, but they've actually supplied and sourced it. And I think maybe my question, which I know the answer to, but might be helpful for everybody else. Zak, how long has it taken you to get through all the families? So people know it's not an easy feat. It's actually time and effort's gone into it.
The first week, I bit off more than I can do and did 7 in a Saturday. So that took from 11 a.m. in the morning until 7:30 at night. But that was for Mother's Day, and it was pouring with rain. But as Kelly said, when I got home and she fed me toast, it's the things we do for Jesus. So that was worth it. But then I've gone to, the next weekend was just 1, and this weekend is 3. And then there's still 3 more left on the list, and 1 who doesn't want to visit, which is more than fine. So it does take time and prep and mapping out the route for the bike. And the reason I ride is I don't drive. So I figured I had to come up with another way to still connect with people.
Well, and with you being new as well, obviously that's part of, getting to know people. It's harder to do another way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And out of the 16 families, I'd only met 6 of them. So it's been interesting rocking up at their door and going, hello, I'm a complete stranger other than seeing me on live stream. Can I have a glass of water and let's chat?
Great. So are you working more than the hours you're being paid, Zak?
Yes. Much more.
Okay.
That is where we say, thank goodness for JobKeeper.
Yeah. I
want to say, where I go, amen.
I want to say I've enjoyed the, whatever it's called, Kids Time in Worship. That's been creative and interesting and...
Thank you.
Unusual time.
Yes, unusual is correct. That is my style. And I remember I got internally crossed the first couple of weeks, and I'd ask a question and then wonder, why aren't the children responding? And then I'd look up and realize there were no children in church and they were all at home. So that was a funny learning curve. But yes, other than that, it's gone really well, but it has been a challenge to try and make stuff relevant and engaging, and try and sit with the lectionary and go, what does this say to us in this context? How can I help kids understand, and how can it be fun and engaging even though they can't participate? But a few weeks back, I did an experiment on Ascension Sunday with fizzy mineral water and grapes and sultanas, and the grapes and sultanas dance. Now, as Jay is laughing already, the mineral water bottle, which represented the Holy Spirit, exploded and went everywhere all over the communion table, which ruffled a few feathers with some people. But my highlight was one of the kids, who was 6, wrote a piece for me in our church magazine and said, what I want to see more of is Zak's exploding bottles. So I thought that was really cool. And they're a family who's been on the fringe, but the kids have loved seeing fun things like that, to be able to get engaged and have something to do. So even when things have gone wrong, it's still been great fun. And I think we did one movie social online, and by the time we got the film up and running, we started with 7 families and we got to 1, because it took an hour and a quarter to get the awful technology to work. And 40 minutes into the film, the mother texted me and said, look, our daughter Ellie has picked up the laptop charger and is talking to it like it's a phone. She's lost all energy and interest in the movie. I'm going to go put her down for a nap. But even though the movie failed, we had a great time laughing together and chatting and trying to make things work.
Great, thank you. So Zak's weekly science experiment. I'll talk to you about Coke bottles and Mentos later, okay?
Oh yes, that would be fun, but I don't think that would be appreciated inside the church.
No, but it would be a good example of the Holy Spirit. I think you've done really well to get the Spirit spraying out there, or something like that.
Baptism by mineral water.
Baptism by mineral water. So we're going to. I'm going to swing to Alani, who works with children and young people at Glen Waverley, and see what you've been doing and learning.
So I guess, sorry, I'm still giggling about the Holy Spirit all over the communion table. We've been doing a whole lot of different things, I guess, to engage with our families and our youth. So the first thing we did was, when we realized everything that was going down, we contacted our families and started basically, we don't call it Sunday school, but our Sunday school program on a weekday after school. It was in the holidays then and they weren't going to school, but we made it during the week. And that's worked really well for us because no one's dropped off. So we've had a lot of guys engaging in our kind of Sunday school thing, not on a Sunday. I feel really spoilt because we have a 19-year-old who's super tech savvy, who is doing some work with children and families with us. And so the things that she comes up with on Zoom, I didn't even know were possible. So it's really interactive, even though
Can you give us an example?
Oh, man, she, I think teachers and stuff know this kind of thing. And she's a second year uni teacher student, but she does Kahoot quizzes with them, Bible quizzes at the end of the lesson, and it's just really engaging. But some of the stuff she does is she even tells them interactive stories where they get sent their part before she sends them their part, so they're all ready for it. So they all dramatize like they're on TV on the screen. They love it. She's just super creative with what she comes up with. I go blank, but I'm trying to think. She's just done really different things, but even simply like putting up the whiteboard and sharing the screen where everyone's colouring in the same picture.
Okay, yep, great.
And they love that, that as simple as, and to all sit there. And then, of course, at the end of the lesson, we're just reinforcing what we've just learned while they're colouring the picture of what we just talked about. So that's been fantastic. We kind of thought that it would die out, that we were a bit novel, the first couple of weeks, but it hasn't. They've all engaged in it. Occasionally they've got something on, but that's gone really, really well.
Can I ask, so what kind of age group is?
So they're all in primary school. So predominantly, we have prep to grade 5. I don't think we have any grade 6s coming. And then we've been sending out activity sheets for our Sunday, because we live stream. And so we send out activity sheets and everything that's about what's going to happen in the service. But the services have still been, I guess, fairly traditional. They haven't been as all aged because and we're trying to kind of meld 5 different services into one kind of service on a Sunday. So the youth and children and families component of that is what it is, but we've been therefore trying to create different rhythms around how we do the worship for the families. So like Joe mentioned, we have a lot of WhatsApp groups going. So I'll be sitting there in the service text messaging families and kids. So the kids will all send me photos and things of them passing the peace to us. So they'll like send little peace be with yous and peace sign emojis and stuff like that. So that's the way we've kind of engaged the families in for at least half of the service, I reckon. And we've been having fun. Well, I've been having fun trying to do stuff in kids' talks that you would never be allowed to do if children were there. Like
chainsaws? Like, what are we talking about here, you know?
Yeah, like bringing in, you know, full-grown animals to illustrate things. And yeah, so pretty much, yeah, anything we could think of to do that was a little bit left of centre that you couldn't do because of OHS, because kids, it's a bit dangerous. So our experiments...
You realise we're all wondering now what kind of animals, like have big teeth? Like,
oh, no, it's pretty boring. Like, just really interesting
snakes?
behaved husky crosses and things like that. So, yeah, nothing too extravagant, but... and, you know, working with robots that don't work so well and that kind of stuff. So we've just been having fun with that. But again, it feels a bit token. It is weird with the kids not there to engage and ponder and doing lots of experiments and things as well. But enjoying the fact that then from the parents, I'll hear that during the entire kids talk, the kids were yelling at the screen because obviously it was so obvious what we were doing, but we're like, oh, what's going to happen? And they're like, ah! So apparently that's been really entertaining for the parents as well. I'm trying to think what else. So that's the kids stuff.
I see Jill's hand. Well, in a minute, Jill, do you want? Can we let? Yeah, Jill, ask a question now if it's okay, and then.
I was just going to remark that this has been, as far as the children are concerned, this is an extension of play school before they got to school, and what it must be like for the people who do the children's programs without the children there. What she was saying was it felt weird projecting a program interactively, and the kids' reactions is what they've learnt in play school. So for them, it's not novel as it is for us.
Yeah.
Yes, very true, I think.
The other thing we've been doing during our worship to kind of engage children and families a lot is we've been contacting the kids particularly, and sometimes the teenagers, but mostly the children, to get them to pre-record things. So we've done, we did a puppet play where we got one of the kids to do all the voices of the puppet and then edited the puppet speaking with the kid's voice, and then had all the other kids asking questions so it was the donkey that rode Jesus to Palm Sunday. So all the kids are there, and we've been getting the children to do Bible readings and prayers of the people and all sorts of things, and then just syncing that into our service. So that's been a way to kind of engage them in worship, and it's kind of been a little bit easier because for some reason they really like to see themselves on television. So when I've asked them to do this sort of stuff in the past, they're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But now that it's a video and then they get to see themselves on the TV on Sunday, they're all of a sudden they're really keen. So that's just been fun.
Yeah. So they just and to you somehow. How's that work?
Yeah, so mostly they'll do it on their parents' phones and then just send me the email of the link of the video, yeah, or they'll do it in WhatsApp and send it to me in WhatsApp. The other thing we've been doing is we've been gathering the children and families for things like trivia activities. So that's just been fun, and that was because I felt like I was seeing the kids a lot and then hearing from the parents a lot, but not seeing them all as a gathered sort of community. And so we were missing them. So we thought we'd hold a trivia afternoon, and that was really good. Yeah, and lots of people engaged in that, lots of our families.
Did they have to buy their own prizes?
Yeah, I just kept telling them that I'd send them the meat trail in the mail, but it might take a while to arrive. Yeah. So yeah, that worked really well. And then we've been doing some interactive stuff, very much like what Joe did. Actually, we did after Easter, we covered our for Easter we covered our outside cross in flowers and things, and did a whole flower thing. And then after that, we wanted to do something else that was out in the lawn that was a little bit like the rainbow trails and the teddy bear trails and stuff. And so we sent all of our congregation hearts that were blank that just said sending love, and then asked them all to colour that in, very similar to the butterflies. And then we've laminated them and put them all on our lawn, because we're at a really prime position, I guess, in terms of the community. So our lawn now is covered with almost 100 separately coloured in, all ages coloured in, hearts that say sending love. And then we got a real estate board made that has a whole bunch of these hearts on it too, that just said sending love to the community. And then we've delivered them down to the shops that are just down the road, and they all say sending love to our local heroes, for thanks for being there and staying open during this time. And so the shops and things have put these all in their windows now as well. So our little installation is flowing down the street as well. And the shop owners have been amazing, because when we come in, they sort of jump up and down and get all excited. One of them even got teary that, you know, we would acknowledge that it's been tough for them. So that was really nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's wonderful. Alanie, who's got a question?
Craig, Diane does.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm looking at all the things and Diane.
Melanie, what about the youth group stuff you're doing?
Oh, yeah, we can get to the youth.
Sorry, I thought I was talking too much. So with our youth group, we've been meeting regularly on Fridays. And that's been another thing via Zoom that's just continued, and it's been really great. And our junior youth group too, which is kind of grades 4 to 6, have been meeting weekly. They used to meet fortnightly, but they actually asked to meet more regularly during this time. And so we upped that to weekly. And again, we've been really shocked because they've just stayed. There has been really good commitment to those groups, and they just come every week, and their parents will say they really look forward to it. And we've just been trying to do things where we're honouring the rhythms of things that are happening in their lives. So this Friday, for instance, we're doing a little bit fancy because we're acknowledging that lots of the Year 12s are missing out on their like formals and things like that. We do our youth groups and our gatherings around, just honouring them where they're at. So, you know, some of them had sporting things, so we've done like sporting nights to honour those sorts of things. So that's been really good. And then with young adult ministry and things like that, as well as, and this is all amongst kind of already what we're doing, like little Bible studies and things like that, but we've been getting them all together for like Netflix parties and regular trivia night. Like Quizmeisters are a trivia place, and they run trivia nights every Friday night. So all the young adults that are kind of by themselves, and a lot of them are single and live alone, just been getting them together and starting them off on a trivia night, and then move on to youth group. So just kind of trying to make sure that everyone's feeling really connected, and know that we're here for them. Yeah. And we're exploring starting a confirmation group as well, because
yeah, that's fabulous, Alanie. Sounds like life's pretty quiet up your way then.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Lockdown. Thank you. There's so many ideas there and energy, and I could say I feel exhausted listening, but that's not true. I actually feel energized by hearing all that stuff you're doing. So, and with any of this stuff, I think if people want to know more, I'm sure those who are sharing stories will be happy to tell you, you know, what's a Kahoot and things like that. So I'm really keen in the last few minutes to hear from Nicole and Kelly about their stuff. And so let's go to Nicole, who I know has had a challenge connecting with the young people at St Leonard's Brighton during lockdown.
Yep. So I have been trying to run youth group on Zoom weekly, and I haven't had a reply from our young people for the last probably 4 weeks now. So I've tried calling them, texting them, emailing them, posting on Facebook, and having an open Zoom channel, and have just been getting no reply, which is only marginally more than nothing that I normally get before this time. So it's not all that different to not have a reply, to be honest, but at least before I didn't get a reply, but people still rocked up, whereas now I don't get a reply and no one rocks up. And so it's been really difficult because, so I sent out an email last week saying, hey, I understand things are overwhelming and there's stuff going on. Let me know what you want from me, how I can best serve you and your families in this time, and offered 7 suggestions for things we could do, ranging from, you know, me juggling in their driveway to running videos and doing live stream to doing nothing. And the response that I got was, please do nothing, leave us alone, we're overwhelmed. Not that we don't appreciate you, but schooling online is a lot, and there's a lot of stuff for our young people to do online, and we're actually enjoying having that space to not have to do stuff and be busy. So I don't know where that leaves stuff for our ministry, for our young people. They have basically said, until we're going to meet face to face again, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to connect. So that's fine. I respect that. That's families' decisions, but also I'm not sure what that will look like, therefore, for us coming out of this and into the future. So that's really hard, just trying to balance that. The stuff I'm doing with my young adults seems a little bit more active. They're replying a little bit more and connecting in a bit more with stuff that Kelly's doing, but also as a church community. But certainly the high schoolers and upper primary school kids that I work with are not connecting at all because they're just overwhelmed with schooling and stuff.
Thanks, Nicole. I think it's really important for us to hear that, because if we're just hearing success stories, which we haven't, because people have said that they're experimenting and trying things and stuff, that this is about, you know, we can't just go online and expect people to turn up. They've got to opt in. And I hear what you're saying about, you know, if you're on online school all day, then the last thing you want to do at night is be in, you know, another group that's organised by someone where you've got to get on screen again. So, yeah. It must be frustrating for you. Well, I know it's frustrating for you. Yeah. There's a plus in that about them wanting to be face to face. I mean, you know, that's the good thing, isn't it?
There's certainly irony in it, because they weren't coming regularly beforehand, and so now they're like, we really benefit that. I'm like, did you? Yeah. Okay. So it's nice to know that they did actually enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. I'll be interested to know at the end of this what, and not just for you, Nicole, but for people to say, well, what are we learning about this that will come out of this differently?
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say, just quickly, if I can, was the other thing I think I'm learning is that, particularly in my church community, a lot of people, a lot of the church community aren't friends with each other. So for a lot of our young people, they haven't really formed a cohort together. The young people go to about 7 different schools between the 9 of them, and so they don't have kind of common things to do between each other. And although they're, you know, the same age and you'd think that would connect them, it doesn't seem to. So I think that's made it difficult as well, because where a lot of people have wanted to do catch-ups and stuff, and, you know, they want to go to youth group because they miss their friends. Well, my kids aren't friends with each other, so they don't really miss each other, which is harsh, but it's also the truth. Like, and so that's been difficult because they just couldn't really care less about each other. They hardly know each other's names, even though I've spent the last 12 months trying to get that.
Yep. So church is not a primary community for them outside of school, so to speak.
Jay has a question.
Sorry, my internet's cutting in and out. So,
All
yes,
right.
Jay.
I was going to say to Nicole that that's a really valued understanding and interpretation of what's going on, and all power to you for actually naming it, because we like to think our youth kids all have a certain way of doing things and everyone fits in the same model. So it tells me you're really listening to what's going on, and that's really great. So all power to you for listening and for hearing them also say, not now, let us come back later. So I think all of that's really good.
Yeah, and also challenges the idea that, well, we have to have a youth group. You know, that's how we're going to do youth ministry. Someone was waving. I think was it Ian? Yep.
I don't know how helpful it is, Nicole, to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. While you were speaking about putting out all these invitations and getting no response, I couldn't help but think about the calling of the disciples, and Jesus called them to be fishers of men. And I love fishing, but I'm not very good at it. And I remember many times sitting on a riverbank reflecting on everything around me while I dangled an inappropriate bait, probably, in the water for some, well-meaning fish to come along and take for me, and it never happened. But I think that it's interesting that and I've never really thought of this before, I confess. I think it's interesting that the initial call of the disciples was calling fishermen and then inviting them to be fishers of people. And fishing is sometimes on the surface not very productive, but you never, in a sense, you never know when it's going to bear fruit. And I think that with those young people, the fact that they could say, we'll be interested when we can get back together again, I think that's huge. But as I say, I don't know how helpful that is, but that's my ramble. There you are. You can have it.
Yeah,
Take
so
it
I
or
guess
leave it.
you just hope that you just kind of keep putting stuff out and that maybe it'll be picked up. So there's just resources and stuff that I'm there that I'm like, they may read, they may not. It's there. And
Yep.
then just see what happens.
Thanks, Nicole. So, folks, I'm keen to hear from Kelly before we finish, because she's working in a different space. So Nicole started talking about young adults, and you've already been in the online world way before this happened, living and breathing there, Kelly. So in a sense, how has this changed the stuff that you've been doing?
Yeah, so for me at Murrumbina and Sonder Collective, it's been really different and interesting. And I've realised that Murrumbina even in itself benefits so much from Sonder Collective, because we do all of our programs through there. And so that's opened up to, like, there's 35 church communities happening there, and it's open up to all small churches with their youth and young adults. And so for whatever we do is actually just is to run alongside things that are happening at churches. So we don't do a service online because everyone has all their churches already doing services online. So we don't need to do that. What we are doing instead is like gathering those sections, and particularly what Nicole's saying about those cohorts, like actually creating spaces for people to build friendships and to learn about each other and things like that. So the big difference is that we've had our online community for a long time, maybe since last year in October it started. And so we've been hanging out in this child-friendly atmosphere. It's its own group. It's got its own code and everything. We've got a leadership team in there as well. But the other thing we've noticed is that we've invited our other regions who would meet face-to-face so they can come in and hang out with everybody online. So the questions that we're asking ourselves now is, when this doesn't happen, are they going to stay online or are they going to go back to face-to-face? And are we then going to have like a dead online region because everyone's just like overworked it? So for me, I'm asking questions about in people individually. I'm messaging them going, what do you want out of this space? And are you actually having fun? Like, if there are other things we could be doing, what would they be? And are you still going to be here? So It's been really good. And then for those who are, we're going to then create a group with a hot seat, do a bit of story sharing, who they are, what they do in their life, all that kind of stuff. And if faith comes into it, amazing. I'm all for testimonies, but it doesn't have to. Like, a lot of our people in our online region aren't Christians. So yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Are you finding you're connecting with like the usual suspects, or are there different people coming in, or people dropping out? How's that changed?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So in terms of Bible studies, we've had an exponential large number of people come on. So, and that's from all over the place, whether they are churches around the corner or new people who've never come to faith before. They're just like, let's jump onto a Bible study, which I find odd and amazing. But maybe it's because the church building isn't seen as a barrier at the moment, so they can test the waters a little bit and dip their toes. With the games, so we do game nights specifically where we just run games and entertainment, just because otherwise it's really boring.
So are you doing that on Steam, or how are you doing it?
So we do it through Discord, so it's its own little thing. So it's a gaming community, and then we have things that run on Steam, which is another platform that you can buy games, so tabletop games. So we've been doing that. The other thing to note is that Julian Hamilton, we've realised, isn't far away at the moment because he's in Ireland, but internet's great. So we're running a Bible study open to anybody. Like, it's not even youth and young adults. It's a open space to come on and jump on and hang out with Jules. So we're thinking outside the box. So Jay and I have been brainstorming our little minds out and trying to think of new cool things to do. So yeah, it's been good.
Jay, do you want to add in anything to that as a observer, so to speak?
I think one of the things that you wanted to do with this, Craig, is to also highlight how much our lay workers are working. And
I hope we'll be doing that a bit.
Yes. Yeah. So Kelly has something on every night of the week. And so we may not have physically be seeing her that often, but the workload hasn't stopped. And I think our lay ministry workers, and I couldn't do what I do without my team, and I love them tremendously. But they've just jumped in and done whatever has been necessary. And I think that's the calling that we all have amongst our ministry stuff. So it's been great to be creative, and I'm looking forward to staying creative, but also asking, what is the future going to be?
Yeah.
Well, we're keen to we're keen to start a conversation. In fact, we're starting it next week about what does church look like after this in terms of being church both online and offline. So we're talking about what we're doing now, but what are we learning that might change who we are when this kind of goes back. And yes, in terms of the workload thing, I mean, after I'd heard a couple of churches say, well, lockdowns happen, so our playgroup coordinator or whoever, we've unfortunately had to stand them down. And I said to them, well, people I know are working harder because they're doing, they're connecting with families online, they're preparing activity packs, they're making videos, they're doing online storytelling, all that kind of stuff. That, that the stories today say that there's lots and lots of things you can try. Whether they work, we don't know. We're having a go at it. But, it's an experimental space, not a dead space at all. Folks, we're out of time. So as I said, I'm really keen to start another conversation about, well, what are we learning about this that shapes us into the future, and to see where that goes. Thank you so much, those of you who shared. I was hoping we might open it up at the end, but we've run out of time. Really appreciate the stories, the energy, the imagination, the creativity, and the sharing of it's not all great, it's frustrating. And we didn't get all of those ups and downs out either, but it's good to hear like I said, both the creativity but also the heart that you're putting into what can we do in this time and keeping connection. How can we keep connection? So all power to you folks. And to those listening in, we hope it's been helpful. We hope that it sparked some ideas and got your mind buzzing and, you know, go away and have a play. Kind of thing.
Thanks so much, Trace.
So thanks for joining us on PPE TV. And I hope you recognise my background from the movie Up.
Yeah.
So I just want to take the house somewhere at the moment. I'm stuck in the house. I just wanted to go up. Okay.
Oh, lovely.
And just one note, we have been recording this session, and if there's anybody who'd like to not be in the YouTube version of this, let me know. And one thing to clarify, Zak's question earlier, as you might have seen in the chat, the Victorian government, health and safety and so on, fully support what Zak's been doing. We're able to have people out on the parks.
As of last Monday.
Yeah, that's right. 10 at a time with no contact, obviously, and keeping the distance and so on.
Unless you're a footballer.
And to be clear, we sanitised and they provided the ball and we stood far apart. And let me say, it was mostly them playing and me standing there, as cricket is not my strong suit. So there was very little contact put together. But all I'll say is they got double runs, whereas the mother made a century. So
it's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay, Zak. Your whole thing's going to be cut from this, so it doesn't matter.
But no, don't worry.
Thanks, mate. I'm so glad I came along there.
As well as Nicole saying, look, none of the people at Brighton are friends. We're going to cut that out as well. So
just the light, fluffy stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, well
sounds like
the spray, the
It's
bottle
the truth.
spray.
It can stay.
Yeah. And no spitting on that ball, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'll remember to change that for next time.
And also with you. We'll finish with that. Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you online another time. So long.
Bye.
Bye.